Well, I was working a B shift, and me and a friend were rebuilding a cylinder, a hydraulic cylinder for a cat. And just like that, somebody came up and said they're closing the shop, they're closing the mine. I said, bull.
I went to work on graveyard one night, the gate was locked, and they turned us around and said, come back on Tuesday for a meeting to tell you what's going to happen. And on Tuesday they started handing out all kinds of paperwork.
And I've worked there 26 years, and June 24th they closed the doors and threw us all out.
The depressed copper state, not only in the state of Arizona, but worldwide. BHP, which is owned by an Australian group, made a decision to cease the operations of the San Manuel division, along with the BHP division in Miami, going from a total workforce of over 2,000 people to less than 200 people.
I've never been back. I was very bitter at first. I think I always thought that it was a plan. They bought that place to shut it down because it was a state-of-the-art smelter, high-grade ore, and they had other properties in South America, Indonesia. And this was their competition, one of the biggest competitions in the state.
I seen grown men at the age of 50 and 55 years of age that have worked all their lives in a mine or in the copper industry, in a smelter facility, a refinery, whatever the case might be. And they went in when they were 18, 19 years of age. And now they're in their 50s. They don't know anything else. As far as some of them became journeymen, pipe fitters, welders, boiler makers, carpenters. But the way the economy is, the state we're in right now, it's very hard for a 55-year-old man to go out there and find a job.
Some of our guys, while they have done well in terms of finding another occupation, they've been able to get some training with the Job Partnership Act. It still hurts. It's a shock. When they shut down that first day, so we have our union hall. It's full of our people, and you've got the wives and the kids. What are we going to do now? And a lot of our people, whether they're Hispanic, Anglo, and we have African American brothers there. Some of these people went through the cracks. They don't know how to read or write properly. So these folks really get scared. It's like a nightmare.
When BHP decided to close the mine in San Manuel, along with the smelter and the rest of the facilities, it was almost disbelief and shock from most of the membership, because we've dealt with these kinds of issues and we know that they're there all the time, and we just kind of get jaded to them after a while. But when it really came down and happened, it was just shock more than anything. And then as it started to sink in, the reality is just devastating when it does to the families and to the workers themselves.
Well, basically I have to go out of town to work. I own my home here in San Manuel, and I have to go out of town to work. Like right now I'm working in Safford. I work construction. Well, it's difficult being away from your family, kids' activities at the house, in the schools, and different things, after school programs, stuff like that. I can't be here. It's 138 miles to where I'm working now.
I lost my car and I filed bankrupt, and what I built, my good credit just went down. And the company didn't care, they just threw us out, And I got sick and I filed for Social Security. I retired, you see, but it wasn't the same. And I found little jobs, for $6, $7, and it was a big change for us.
It pretty much destroyed us. We had to sell our property in Mammoth and make new arrangements for living. I had to go to work full-time instead of part-time. We did everything we could so our son could stay his last year in school and graduate here. And it was pretty traumatic for my husband, especially after 12 years. We lost a lot of our insurance. I'm still fighting with the insurance company to cover some of my medical claims from before my husband was laid off.
I got my retirement from the mine when I was only 54, and I was trying to get a job, and nobody would hire me. I think it was two things, because of no experience in anything else, and they just thought, well, a miner, what am I going to use him for? And then my age also was a barrier. You know, I found that out. It was very difficult, and even for I tried to even apply for a custodian job with the schools. You know, they wouldn't even hire me. I don't know what younger guys or what, but a lot of my friends, older friends, had the same problem I did.
I had a good friend commit suicide over this. He was a foreman out there at BHP. He had a family and everything was going good for him, and then all of a sudden he lost his job. And then, of course, that causes problems with some marriages. He lost that, and then he decided to end his life. And I don't think he's alone. I think there's a couple others too.
It affected a lot of people, and I lost a lot of my friends have passed away with, stress on them, heart attacks. It was hard for them. It was real hard for them, and I lost about 4 of them already.
A lot of lives were changed. I know I changed. I used to look forward to weekends with my wife and plan things, and we're going to do this and that. And when I shut the mine down, we started doing that, and then got old, I guess. I think a lot of guys will deny it, but I think we were sort of depressed, because I know after a while I couldn't get along with my wife or nobody, and I thought it was them, but later on, when you start getting through it a few months later, you realize that it was you that was doing all this, causing all this problem. But my wife never said nothing. I guess she knew, So.
Town is getting to be a ghost town. You have a lot of people that are moving out. A lot of folks stayed there because the husband, or in some cases the wife, they've had to go find work out of town. So they still keep that home until they can be stable and come back for the family.
Here, I'm working at the store now, taking the place of some of the women that had to leave because their husbands had to take jobs in other states.
Depending on our major employer here, which is SARCO in the mining industry, we find that if there's jobs available, families and children are going to come. But here recently, at the start of this school year, I think we have seen a slight drop in our enrollment, and perhaps that's due again to the employment availability here within the area.
It's affected me through my own family. Also, because I work for the school system, we lost about 500 kids, and they had to close a whole school.
We had 1,300 members. We're down to 30 now. It's it actually tore our union apart, our local union. But yeah, it is sad. Some of the things that we always preach as union people is to live the American dream, which is to have a decent job, that we could have money enough to send our kids to college, that we could have a good car, a good house, that we could be in tune with what society is doing.
Simply put, if you're producing for profit, and if that's the only thing that's on the minds of the heads of a company, of course, the lives of working people won't count much.
It's cost effectiveness. There's always a residual cost of maintaining a property, whether it's running or not. And once they see that the profitability drops below the cost of running, that would be incurred by shutting the mine down or the smelter, then you get to the break-even point, and they decide which way they want to go. Obviously, BHP, who has, being a foreign investor, has no loyalty to this community nor this country, chose to go ahead and take the easy route out and the most economical for their shareholders, which was closure.
If the copper industry were nationalized, it would mean that the government has an interest in it. It's not up to the corporation solely. And they would have to regulate it so that there is no overproduction. And that is the main problem now, that there's an overproduction of copper because the companies can go anywhere in the world and get cheaper wages and cheaper copper.
When you have a nationalization and democratically elected boards, you will have the interests of the workers right there on the table, and they'll find it very the corporate interests have a very hard go at it to close down these mines and lay off these workers.
There's still a struggle, but it's less of a confrontation than when you're dealing with a private corporation that all they care about is the profits. In a nationalized system, the workers play a very high priority, and they still need their union to be able to work as one voice against the management.
There's a contradiction that we have. And the contradiction is that a company won't proceed with production unless they can make money. Workers produce because they need to sell their labor and they need to make the kind of income to take care of their families. Workers also have to look ahead, and we have to make long-term decisions in our unions, in those organizations where unions connect with community organizations. We have to come up with ways to defend our families against recession, depression, and against the loss of health care and wages and workers' rights generally.